My love is like a red, red rose.
Roses are red, violets are blue.
What's in a name that which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet? That's by Shakespeare. Well, you may have guessed it. Nancy Page opened her club meeting with sayings about roses as a lead-in for the day's block. Now, this is the original rose pattern that appeared in the Salt Lake Tribune in 1929. Nancy said her grandmother had a different colored rose at each corner of her garden plot as sentinels standing guard. Well, in memory of Nancy's grandmother's garden, there is a rose on each corner of our quilts. Well, the flat roses in my quilt look very similar to the original Nancy Page quilt. It's a stack of 3 pieces with base A, petal B, petal C, and with a fussy cut right on top. And then it has a folded bud with calyx. It's just beautiful in these 3 shades of yellow. These are flat roses, they're fast, and they're easy to do.
And boring.
But Patty, of course, wanted to do something more dimensional, more time-consuming.
So I looked at photos of real roses, and I came up with a design. Honestly, it took me forever. I thought I was never going to be happy with my design. But you can see some of the different colorations of the roses. And this drawing or photo is more like the actual rose that I designed for the quilt.
And it's beautiful. You
Thank
did a good
you.
job.
As you look at the 4 corners, you see the peach rose in the lower corner. And you know, the peach rose also goes by the name Brandy. The yellow rose goes by the name Sunflare. The red rose is the Portland Trailblazers, which Portland is the city of roses. And the pink rose is the All-American Beauty rose.
All right, and they look so realistic.
Thank you.
Well, Nancy likens the rose onto a face as rose leaf skin, rosy cheeks, and a rosebud mouth. Now, when we're finished showing you how to make the roses, we're going to show you how to make the zinnia. Now, this is the original newspaper clipping right out of the paper. Well, the zinnia of Grandmother's Day was little more than a weed, but today they're large and they're just gorgeous in their colorings. Well, this is my flat zinnia. It's very similar in technique to the rose. Has that stack of petals there. The bud is simple with just 3 pieces.
Now, I thought that the ruching technique was appropriate for the center of the zinnia, and then I finished with some French knots. I used the light yellow and the gold to give it a natural look.
And it's beautiful.
Thank you.
So let's dig in and get some sewing done. This is my favorite rose story, Pat. It's about Josephine.
Yeah.
She was the ex-wife of Napoleon, and she always carried a rose with her so she could hide her bad teeth behind it when she laughed. Good story, huh?
Yeah, I'm glad we don't need little roses.
No. Well, we have beautiful smiles, and we can thank our mother for that.
And our dentist.
And here's a photo right here of our mother with the 2 of us and 3 gorgeous smiles. Oh, and Mother loves it in her garden, too. Now, you need to have color families with 3 different values for your roses. So let's start right here with the yellow color family. We have the light, the medium, the dark, and this one is perfect for a fussy cut. So do you have fussy cuts?
This is a dimensional rose. No fussy cuts here. You can see the light, medium, dark in the center and in the bud.
Oh, perfect. Now the peach family has the 3 values as well, and this is the piece for the fussy cut. Now you just find one flower that's about 1 inch square like this, and cut a piece of fusible interfacing a little larger, place it right on top, and see, you can actually see right through there, and just sew on the line. Trim it, turn it. Now we show you a peach flower, but Pat has it in pieces.
All pieces. Give me a minute or an hour, perhaps.
Okay. Now, the pink family looks like this with the 3 different values. Another fussy cut piece, blue center. It's perfect.
Yeah, here's the dimensional rose with the light, medium, dark, and dark bud.
Perfect. Now, The red family is just two different colors, the red, and we're going to use a burgundy right here. And maybe this one for a fussy cut.
Yeah, I think this is everyone's favorite. I love the red rose.
So 2 fabrics are enough. That's good. Now you also need an ombre green, a green that goes from medium to dark in value like this, or how about a piece that has leaves printed right on it, because we can do fussy cuts with this one. Now just take the piece of fabric and tape the fabric to the window. That's so you can see through it. Place your fusible interfacing on top, smooth side up, and then just trace with your permanent marking pencil, and you can see that line going right around there. Partial leaf, we'll just hide it with a rose. Just sew in the line, trim it. You'll have fussy leaves. Well, we need to look at the petals right now. These are the patterns for the petals. And if you see the blue or the brown dotted background, that means that all of these patterns are traced on fusible interfacing. The blue background means that you trace the patterns on template plastic. And so do you have your templates ready?
Got lots of templates here.
All right. So just take your fusible interfacing, smooth side up, and just place it right in your pattern sheet. You need a permanent marking pen, and ooh, you'll find out if I am steady or not. So all you do is just trim or trace right on the line. Tracing is the problem. So I'm going to go for pre-printed. That sounds like it's going to be a lot easier for me. The patterns are all pre-printed on here, straight lines. Now the rose is actually stacked in an order. There's 3 different petals to it, and they are in alphabetical order with A in the bottom, B in the middle, C, and then we have that fussy cut right in the top. And my pink fabrics are stacked exactly the same way in the same order, so I'm just going to go ahead, pair them right side up of the fabric, right side up of the fusible interfacing. You might want to take a pin, put it right through the middle, and the last one, the beautiful green for the calyx. And so I'm ready to sew. This is the best part. This is a part I really like. Okay, 20 stitches to the inch. Use a foot that has plastic, that has metal on the bottom, or you might want to use a metal foot. Use needle down and just go ahead and lighten the tension on your needle bar. Ooh, and when you slow down, just raise your presser foot, do a little pivoting, and just keep on going right around that flower. Ooh, this is turning around pretty good. So what do you think, Pat?
Oh, I think I'd rather do it by hand.
Oh, yeah, you would. You would. Well, I'll just let this sit for a minute, and we'll take a look at Patty's dimensional rose.
Okay, I did do a little work on the machine. This is the template that I use for, this is called Piece Petal B, and I've sewn fabric to fabric, leave it open in the bottom, turn right side out, and then I put a couple little tucks at the bottom. And this will be sewn to the top half of my base. And then for petal C, I've used the templates again. They're 2 petals, fabric to fabric. Once I turn them, I stuff them with cotton batting. And then again, a couple small tucks at the bottom.
So you did that?
Yeah,
huh?
It's already been done. And then these will be arranged side by side on the bottom half of the base.
It's looking good
already. And now the center. I started with a strip. This was cut 2.5 inches by 9 inches, folded in half. I stitched on the right side a 1/4 inch seam.
Your sewing fingers.
Yeah. And then on the left side, about 1 inch along the bottom edge, and then it curves up to the folded edge, and then turn it right side out. And I've marked a dot on the right end, a 1/2 inch up from the bottom. I marked a dot, and then a second dot on the left side where I began my machine sewing, and then the line to connect the dots. That's where I'm going to do a running stitch. But you want to start by rolling the right end tightly. This is going to make the center of the rose, and then I did a running stitch along the line. And when it's gathered to half the original length, then it looks like this. And we're just going to give it a little twirl here, just like a snail. And I'm keeping the center or the right end a little bit lower and just spiral around the center. And then I'm going to take a stitch and sew all this stuff together. All the gathering, if you just stitch back and forth. See how fast we can do that.
Do you have an imaginary needle?
Yeah, and then I rolled the top edge over, that folded edge, if you just roll it over. And then let's just put this right in the middle. And then I'm going to curl that curved end around to cover up my raw edges.
Okay, now are these pieces all stitched down by hand?
Well, they should be, but I didn't. I just laid them in place.
Okay, but you would.
Yeah, I would sew them down.
Okay.
And then you can, pin it in place. And it's a rose. Call it a rose.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, here's the bud. This is really quick.
And the calyx.
Yeah, I started with a square.
And that was a 2.5 inch square.
2.5. Fold on the diagonal. And then cross the two sides over like that.
Okay. So you've got this little opening, little fold right at the top.
Yeah, looks kind of like that. And then I took a stitch along the raw edge and just pull it tight.
So for a flat one, you just barely
Yeah,
pull it.
you don't want it quite as dimensional. You don't pull it quite as tightly. And this is a wraparound calyx, which I just wrap around and stitch in back. And then this goes on the top of my stem. And then I'll tack it.
Whoops.
Well, tack the top, the center, and the bottom.
And keep it wrapped.
Yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like.
That's what it's supposed to look
Yeah,
like.
when it's all sewn, then it'll look more like that.
So how long do you think it really takes you to do a rose?
I've gotten pretty fast. I can't tell you how many I've made. I must have made about 10 or 20, so I'm getting them down within an hour.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead, go back to my sewing. I'll show you how to trim it and turn it and fuse it in place. I have another good rose petal story for you. Okay, they were used by ancient healers to cure any ailment. Okay, you're supposed to eat the rose petal, and then it was to wash molly grubs out of a moody brain.
Tasty.
Very tasty. Well, my flat roses are coming along great, and I'm up to the last step right now on my pink rose. I sewed with that 20 stitches to the inch on the line, and then all you need to do is just take your sharp 4-inch trimming scissors and trim 1/8 inch away. And if you trim that close, then you don't need to go in and clip at the curves. And just take this piece, get rid of it, you don't need it. Now, just pull the interfacing away from the fabric, take your little trimming scissors, take a little nick right in the center. Aha! The straw and bodkin trick. Okay, get the straw right in there out to the outside edge. Turn the fabric so that it's on the end of the straw. Just take your ball point on the bodkin. Ooh, you've seen this before, but this is a big piece. And all you want to do is just get it turned right side out. Okay, one more. Go to the other side. And all you do with these big pieces is just keep on sticking the straw in and out until you get it completely turned. And oh, I bet my fingers will do a great job too. Just run this around here, and then all I'm going to do is cut a piece of cotton batting just a little bit smaller and insert it in here so it's ready for Pat. So do you have the leaf? The leaves, the stems?
I am all ready to press.
I
have used my placement sheet in the book to arrange the leaves on the handle piece. And I'm going to steam press, but this is important. Do not press on your book.
Good idea.
Good idea. And then we're just going to hit it with the steam, puff, puff, and turn the other side over.
Ooh, I love the fussy cut
on the wrong
leaves.
side. Yeah, that's such a pretty sage green. And then I'm going to do my little bud. This is that 2.5 inch square that I'm fold in half, press once, Whoops. Let's get it straight. Don't want to cook my fingers here.
Good idea.
And then you might want to try the step without the steam. And then turn over one side and then the other side. And then I'm going to take my needle and thread, stitch along the raw edge. And I'm going to gather this lightly, but not quite as much as I did for the dimensional rosebud. Just pull it tight and tie a knot. And are you ready with the other petals?
I'm ready. Toss it to me. Okay, now I turned this right side out, and I used a wooden iron, and you just press from the inside of the fabric to the outside of the fabric. And then I cut a piece of cotton batting the same size, and I'm just going to take my hemostats, get a hold of the corner, just open up that rose and just slip it right in there. Right? I was supposed to stuff this, wasn't I, Pat?
You can stuff whatever you want to stuff.
Oh, good. That's a good thing, because it's my quilt, huh?
That's right.
Okay, so then just with your hemostats, pull it to the outside edges. All right. Now, there's that one. Have all the pieces.
Oh, good.
For you.
Thank you.
All right.
I have the easy part.
You too.
Okay, I'm going to steam that little bud in place. And whoops.
Right, need a pin there. Put it right on top. It's okay if you
Give
scrunch
it
it.
a real...
I think you made my bud just a little tight. You thought it was the dimensional one. There you go. Just iron it down good.
Okay. Yeah, if it doesn't stick right away, sometimes if you take a little spray bottle and give it a little mist. And we're going to place this right there. Do you like that?
Mm-hmm. That's covering up the end
Okay.
of the leaf.
Give it a little
Fuse
shot
that
of
down.
steam.
Good.
Turn it over. Cook it.
I love that pink.
Yeah, it's
That
pretty.
is beautiful.
Yeah, pink and green.
And you
then,
could just put the whole stack. What do you
Oh.
say? Go for it.
You think I can do all three at a time?
You can. Take them all
Okay,
there.
you're the quilting a day lady. Why waste time?
You're right.
Got more important things to do. We got 3 more of these to make, don't
Right. Right.
we? Ooh, it's stuck.
Beautiful. I
Cool.
love it. All
Okay.
right.
One more.
And now, all I need to do is just use invisible thread, and I'm going to set a blind hem stitch and stitch around the outside edge. Now, this time I tried something different. I put invisible thread in the bobbin as well. So I have it in the top and in the bobbin. Just do a blind hem around that outside edge. My roses will be finished, and we're on to zinnias. The zinnia in its native Mexico was known as meldiollos because the flowers were small and they were considered ugly to the eye. Can you believe that? They're so beautiful.
And you know they come in every color.
That's true. And today we're using 3 different values of the red violet. Ooh, they are so beautiful. And then Pat's going to use a lavender for the ruching in the center. Ooh, ruching, that'll be fun. Now, when you look at this piece, you're going to say, oh my gosh, that is just like the rose because it's 3 layers together. You can see right here, exact same technique with the fusible interfacing on the back. Well, I have them all lined up. They're all traced on fusible interfacing, ready to sew down. Now, there's a bud piece right here. It's a little bit different. And the calyx is here on the green and the leaf. Now, when you put the bud together, there is an open raw edge right in the top of the calyx and then an open raw edge right here. So this piece covers up both raw edges. Now the leaves are a little bit different too. You're going to take 2 layers of green fabric and place them right sides together. Light on the bottom, dark on the top, and there's a template that you use, and actually draw the template, draw the leaves in mirror image, and include a slit on the dark side, because then whenever you turn it through the slit on the dark side. Now, I'm going to show you what you do with that slit. Take and sew your handle and your basket together, and then position your stack, your 3 together. Here's your bud up here. Now, the leaves are placed so that the light fabric is on the top, and the cut is right up here on the back side so that we can just go ahead, do a little decoration, fold those edges up, and then stitch them in place. And so, Pat, the zinnia is coming to you.
Okay. Well, you know, this is my basket, and you put a flat top on it. Now, I don't like those flat flowers, so if I may, I'm going to remove this top and replace it with a ruched flower. And I'm going to show you how to make that. Now, isn't that pretty?
That's pretty.
Okay, and I need to make another ruched flower for this area. And I've cut my strip 1 1/4 inches by 20 inches. I pressed the raw edges underneath. And then I'm measuring on the right end, if you lay it against a ruler or a pressing mat. And every inch I marked a dot. This is along the top folded edge. I mark a dot, and then on the bottom folded edge, I measure in a 1/2 inch for my first dot, and then every inch after that. So the dots are offset, and my stitching goes from dot to dot in a zigzag direction. And I'm going to use matching thread. How's that match?
It looks like matching thread.
Okay.
And did you run it through thread conditioner?
Of course, I did
All right.
that. And then I'm just going to begin on the first dot. Take a running stitch. You can just use long stitches. Now when you come to that dot, I have finished my last stitch on the underneath side, and when I go to change direction, I'm going to begin my next stitch on the top side of the strip so that the thread will loop around the edge. And after I sew a few inches, you see how it just loops right over the edge. And when I gather it, it will cause it to draw in and shape the petals, which you can see we've got a couple little petals going there.
Aww.
And once I've sewn the entire length, then gather it to half the original length.
Like magic.
It was magic, wasn't it? And then I'm going to shape the flower. If I just start with a kind of a running stitch along the bottom edge, I'm going to stitch about 5 or 6 petals together and shape it into a little circle. See, like that? And then continue with the next row of petals underneath. Just kind of sew it as you shape it with the needle and thread. And
wrap it around.
Wrap it around, and this one will fit right here.
Perfect. Now, being the machine wizard that I am,
yes,
I would do the zigzag stitching by hand, have to do that. But do you know now, once you have your ruched flower done, you can put it on there, and you can use invisible thread, and a stitch that you sew buttons on just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can just go ahead and put your presser foot right into those indentations and sew it in place.
That's the Quilt in a Day way.
And it's perfect. You'll be done with your zinnia in no time. The rose has always represented love, magic, and hope. To a quilt maker, the rose is a beautiful subject to recreate in fabric. I am so impressed with the work in this yellow rose, the rose of friendship. Well, I found just 4 blocks waiting to be finished. Now the quilt maker did these tiny blanket stitches around the leaves and the roses, and then these perfect stem stitches, and I just love the thorn. So great. Well, this is a wonderful example. Now let me show you this needle turn. I've told you about this. The raw edges are basted down, and then they'll be finished with that blanket stitch. Ooh, it's just beautiful. Well, from these wonderful, delicate yellow roses to big, bright, and beautiful pink Ohio roses. Now, this quilt was made from a mountain mist batting pattern, probably in the 1930s. The raw edges are finished off with a black buttonhole stitch. Well, it certainly makes a statement, doesn't it? Now, talk about statements. Zinnia is bold and fresh, in fall colors, going back to school colors. My mom would always make a bouquet of zinnias for my teacher. In the language of flowers, Zinnia stands for thoughts of absent friends. I'll be thinking of you as you make your quilt blocks.